So just to jump in, I was going to actually have each of our speakers just start out and talk about their journey, either their personal journey or their journey of a family member or a close friend, with this intersection of mental health, faith, and culture.
My mom has been a professional in this field her entire life, something she's worked for. She worked for health insurance companies. She worked for, large companies. And throughout all of that, I would learn and be around mental health. But, when my friends started going through different things, I didn't really know how to, handle the situation or what to say to them that could, put them in a better place. And then my best friend, somebody that was very close to me, we grew up together since the age of 7, lived up on the same street, a couple doors down from me. We shared a lot of firsts together, went to high school together. And he suffered through severe depression for 5 years. And then as he was suffering, I didn't really know how to help. And I didn't really know, what could, make him feel better, because therapy is not the same to everybody. Therapy doesn't always look like sitting on a couch in front of a therapist and just speaking to someone. And, we couldn't find somebody that he could relate to, or that could really understand what he was going through. And so during that time, he suffered a death by suicide. And, the same day I spoke at his funeral, I had to go and catch a flight to my second NFL training camp with the New York Jets. And that entire time, when I spoke at the funeral, I just looked around at a bunch of faces that seemed confused, or seemed like they didn't know, what I was talking about, when I started to speak about what he was living through. And, a lot of people walked up to me afterwards and say, I'm dealing with this type of thing too, but I really don't know what to do. And, once that moment hit, I kind of suffered my own trauma, having a season-ending injury in that same year. And it forced me to think about, what was my real identity outside of football. And so that's why I started my foundation, Dream Impossible, focused on bringing awareness to mental health. And that's why I'm here today.
What, in your view, is actually the current state of mental health conversations in our society?
My opinion on the state of mental health or mental wellness, I feel like the conversation has definitely increased. I feel like more people are talking about it. I feel like more people are feeling like they can talk to it with anyone. But I also think that the resources are way behind. So many people are suffering, but there's not enough resources, yet alone good counselors. Some people might, get recommended to a counselor, but they may not have enough money to pay for it. Or they might get recommended to a counselor, and that counselor might not even be a right fit for them. It might take them 2-3 counselors before they find the right person that can help them. Or you have, drugs that's being overprescribed. So I would say that, we're in the right direction with talking about it, but we need to get the right resources in place to help these people, because there's a lot of people out here hurting. And, they're screaming for help, but we're not really catching up to, to be able to help them.
To personalize it a little bit, I was going to ask a question that's related more to your thoughts on what you think are some effective practices, either to maintaining a good mental state or to addressing mental health challenges. And you've alluded to some of those already, but if you could elaborate on those a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. When I spoke at my best friend's funeral, I had a lot of people walked up to me and they said, did somebody pray for him? Because I think if he would have just came to church and prayed for him, he would have been okay. And, that's when I really felt like I had to, do more action in my community. Therapy doesn't look the same for everybody, like I said originally. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 to me, but it might equal 2 to you. So, working out or medicine might be your formula, but for me, it might be me having an accountability team, me going to see a therapist, or, me eating right. Like Lecrae said, there's different formulas for everybody, and there's no one, unique formula that can cure whatever you're going through. And at the same time, it's a consistent battle. Just because like you feel better one day doesn't automatically mean like that person's, free from it, and it's a consistent battle every single day that you got to continue to check on them. And, that's kind of what I leaned on, is my accountability team. So just a group of people that I feel comfortable with, just opening up to, sharing, whatever happened in my day. And they can tell when something's wrong with me. And, when that happens, it makes sure, that I get the resources that I need.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you all shared on some of those themes, especially the importance of community, because a lot of times with different mental health illnesses and challenges, isolation becomes a piece that people can slip into very easily. And so a lot of the things that you all are talking about are very, very key and important as well. And you also all made a good point about the fact there are different things that work for different people. And sometimes we realize that approach when we're talking about the physical body, but we don't always approach it that way when we're talking about mental health. So, someone can have a physical ailment. One medication may work for them, one may not. One type of therapy may work for them, one may not. And the same thing happens when we're talking about mental health as well. So I think you all are touching on some key points. Just to delve down a little bit more on that, you talked about trying to find what works best for you. What do you think are some good ways to actually evaluate that? How do you figure out what works well for you? Is there, or for family members or friends, or patterns that you've noticed that have helped you kind of move through that process more quickly or have a better sense of how to approach certain challenges?
A big thing for me, or a big thing that I know like some of my family members use is they journal a lot. They journal, through their experiences in life, or even they journal about how they felt that day. They journal about like what kind of therapy they used that day and how did it work for them. So if they worked out, or they use CBD or like whatever it was, there's so many different combinations of things that you can use, and they just pretty much chart how they feel. And if they continue to feel good with that same formula, then they just continue with that. And then if it stops working, then they try something else. Like I said, there's no unique way to stop it or to get through what you're going through, and it's a consistent battle every day.
So to jump on some of what you all have been saying, you've been alluding to this a little bit already, I'd be curious to hear how your faith actually informs your approach to mental health or to the mental health of your loved ones. I mean, we've touched on that, but I'd like to see if you could go in a little bit more about how those two actually intersect.
For me, with my faith, I grew up in a Christian home my entire life. We went to church every Sunday, and it was kind of like religion was not forced on me, but it was just something that, I just kind of thought like you just had to do, And, I knew God was there, but I didn't know like exactly, where he was, for me in my life. Like where was he supposed to be in times of need, or like where, I just didn't really know God the way I know him now. And so I didn't really know God until I felt my first experience, having my complete identity removed. After my second year, after my best friend died, I had a season-ending injury. And so it was no football for me. Had a surgery. And at that point in time, like I completely lost, what I had been defining myself as for like the past 18 years of my life, as just somebody who plays football. And when that moment happened, I had my family, but it was really just, me and God, and that's when I really got a chance to really figure out who he was and figure out who he was to me. And just knowing that he was there with me through that entire experience, knowing that he was who, what made me, and he was who I was, and just getting, to spend some time with him, it prepared me for other adverse situations that I would face later on in my life. And, I even faced times where I would question God. I would question God, like, why are you taking me through this? This is not the plan that I had. Everybody wants to, tell God your plans, and God looks back at you and kind of just laughs. And that's really what it was to me. Like, I was like, I want to be this, I want to get drafted. I want to be this Pro Bowl player. And it's like, God's like, pump the brakes for a little bit. I want to take you somewhere else. And, that's where he kind of took me down this mental health, speaking thing. And then, again, this past season, I have another season in the injury. So I'm like, God, like, what are you trying to show me? Like, I get the message. I think I got it the first time. I kind of understood it. Like, I was like, the connection is definitely there between me and you. And still at that same point in time, like I'm doing all this speaking about mental health, and at the end of the day, I'm still questioning who God really is, because I'm just I was angry at him. I feel like he took everything that I had, everything that I worked for my entire life, and that's what life was to me. And after going through this second injury, I kind of reached rock bottom. I started to drink a lot more. I started to lean on other mechanisms as, a way that I could express myself, now that I didn't have football. And, that's when I really realized that I was more than just a football player. I was more than just an advocate. I was a son of God, a son of Jesus Christ. And through that, through my journey, it's prepared me for all the adverse situations that I continue to face and everything that I will continue to face in my career and beyond my career. And, now that, he took me through all that, I can actually see the light now. And I can actually see, no matter the day, football's over, I'll never have an issue, figuring out, who I'm supposed to be.
Okay, so the next question here is, how do you deal with family members who live with you who have severe mental illnesses when it seems like you're being constantly brought down by the negativity that comes with that?
I can speak to that. I got a cousin that he hasn't been diagnosed. We've asked him to go in and get help a lot of different times, and he doesn't want to. And I have a little sister. She has some depression. She just had a baby, so I'm not the expert. I don't know what the syndrome's called, but what's it called? After you have a baby?
Postpartum depression.
Yeah. So, I don't gotta. Yeah,
that's a wise man. He knows where to go for his resources.
Yeah, she has that, and I had a cousin. My cousin, he called me one time, and this was just random out of nowhere. We kind of talk a good bit, and he just called me, cussing me out, like out of nowhere. Like he was just like, you don't do anything for the family, you don't do nothing for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't care about me. And I'm like, I talk to you as much as I can. I try to help you as, however I can. And then 2 weeks later, I see him, and he acts like nothing happened. And I'm like, he just said, like, some of the most offensive things I've even heard in my entire life, like, not even from a coach, like, worse than what I hear from my coaches. And I'm like, and he just acts like it was completely normal. And so, my mom, she tried to make me understand, what he was dealing with and what he was going through. And what I learned through that situation was just to keep on loving him regardless. You can't be mad at him. What he's dealing with, I'm not in his shoes. I don't live his life. So I can't tell you what he's exactly going through, but I can control how I react to the situation. And for me, it was just continuously trying to find the help that he needed and continuously trying to do everything that I could to help him. And, that's a constant, battle for me. Even when, I heard those negative words, it took me a while to accept it and get over it. But when you have somebody like that in your family, you just got to love them. You got to pay attention to them even more than you do your other family members, because they really need that love. And we all need that connection that we need that connection on a daily basis. And without it, we feel isolated and, we go backwards. Like mental health or mental wellness is not like, breaking an ankle and then you do rehab and it's fine. Like you can be fine a couple days and then a couple days later you can go a whole different direction. So, just being consistent, that's what I would say.